To make our natural daylight interior more appealing, we can add some studio light trickery, a couple of soft lights to fill in the shadows. So we can isolate that effect from the sun and sky environment. Let's turn off that environment. Go into the rendering menu, environment, and disable use map. We can close that dialog and now create a light in the top viewport. Get in close with the middle mouse and the wheel so we can frame up that living room. Go to the Create panel, Lights, Photometric, Target Light. Click and drag to create the light and its target. Release the mouse and you've just created the light and its target. Right-click to exit the tool. And with the light still selected, go to the Modify panel and rename it Soft Light 001. We want to move it up off the floor. Let's use the Move tool and click on the line that connects the light and its target. And when that's selected, both the light and its target are selected. We can go over to an orthographic view, right-click so we don't lose that selection, getting closer with the wheel, and then move that light and its target up a little bit above the camera. Then we can select that target and move it down a little bit so that the light's going to be angled down into the room. We've got a light on one side of the camera. Let's duplicate it to the other side. Select the light in the top viewport. And with the Move tool, hold down Shift and drag to create a clone. And in the Clone Options dialog, choose Instance. That way the two lights will always share the same parameters. Click OK. And then just adjust the light so that they're kind of not right on top of one another. Select one of the targets and move it around. Give it a little bit of variation so it's not too mechanical. Okay, we've got our two lights. We want to make sure that they're not in the view of the camera. Select the camera in its Modify panel, Basic Parameters, Viewport Display, Show Cone. We'll change that over to Always. And now the frustum's always displayed. We can now move the lights around, making sure that they're not going to be visible to the camera. Don't place them inside any geometry. This is a wall over here. This is actually a skylight here, so we can move that wherever we want. And remember also that due to a bug in this version of the program, these lights will actually cast shadows. Once we enable an area light, then it will be as if those lights were solid objects that can cast shadows into the scene. So keep that in mind. We set up our scene now, and we're ready to do an active shade render and adjust the parameters. Click on Render Setup to launch the dialog. And let's switch over into active shade mode. And we need to make doubly sure that we have the correct camera selected here. It's a little bit problematic. Turn off the lock if it's on. And select Physical Camera 001 and then lock it again. And we're going to render active shade using ART with a target quality of 30 decibels. Click Render. You might need to resize the window a little bit. And we still got one of our lights selected. Let's go to the Light Modify panel and change up some of the parameters. First, we have the light distribution type. Change that over to Uniform Diffuse. This is going to be a one-sided plane. Next is the light shape over in Shape Area Shadows. Change that from point to rectangle. And we've got a default length and width here. Let's set them to a small value to start with. 0.1 meters for both length and width. Type in 0.1, hit the Tab key and type in 0.1 and press Enter. Then we come to the intensity up here. Let's change it to lumens and give it a much brighter intensity suitable for studio lighting, 20,000 lumens. And now it's much brighter here. Finally, the color temperature. To match our exposure control, let's use D55. Choose Kelvin and 5500 Kelvin for the temperature. Now we've got balanced white light. Okay, with a small rectangle size of only 10 centimeters, we've got hard shadows here. We'll simply increase the length and width of the light shape to 1 meter each. 1, Tab, 1, and Enter. and our active shade starts showing these soft shadows appearing now. We can see one of the lights in the reflection here in my version of the scene. We can manipulate those lights in the top view and prevent that from happening. Go over to the top view and right click, move that light around, and then wait for the active shade to update. Our fill lights are set up, and now all we need to do is re-enable the environment. Go back into rendering, environment, and turn use map back on again. If you get any error messages, this is not a problem. It's actually working fine on my scene. But if you had any additional problems, you could just close the active shade and do a production render. But we've got the result we wanted. We filled in the shadows in our natural daylight for this interior. And that's how we set up area lights as soft lights in 3ds Max.